with your mother at a young age, and at the moment you walk into a shop, you take something off the shelf and you put it in your pocket, your mother slaps you on the hand. She says, you're not allowed to steal that, you didn't pay for it. But in this world, I consider, so you walk into a store and you take something off the shelf, your mother slaps you on the hand, she goes, we don't need that. That's not essential for us at the moment. Someone else needs that more than you. We've got one of these at home. So you put that back. So it's a value system. Well, accountability to your actions
accountability isn't being
in
told by
society.
your external environment that what you did is wrong.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that you've done that for your own reasons. You've thought about exactly why you're doing it.
Accountability for your actions.
And you get it, and you understand what you've done and what you've got from it.
Yeah.
And how you're going to deal with the result of the action.
But you were relating accountability to what were you relating it to? To paying tax, weren't you?
Or dole.
Dole.
Well, we're actually welfare generally, I think.
Welfare in
things
general.
That people get.
Do you believe
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I was
Is
relating it to.
Is that right?
Yeah, welfare, like getting things for free.
Yeah.
Like, I think that...
nothing's free.
Well, no, nothing's
Someone's
free.
paid for it.
But I think when you're the type of person who understands, like, doing something because you want to, and understand the reasons you do it, and you get the benefits from it, and you understand that whole process, and you find satisfaction in that whole process, then you're the type of person who just does what your dad did, and you hate being given something for free because you feel like you haven't deserved it, and you haven't gotten it for something that for the right reasons. So you're going to seek out a different way of gaining that.
My conclusion from work ethic has always been a question for me, because you work with different people in professional services, in government you work with different people. I think people get broken down over time. Yeah. Right? Systems break people down.
Yeah.
And I think what I did come to is work ethic is something, I agree. It's something that you learn from the people around you.
Definitely.
Like I saw my parents both work, right? And this is a real problem we have with long-term generational unemployment. If you've never ever seen anyone work, right? Yeah. How do you know any different about where the money comes from?
Oh, yeah.
You've never had to you've never seen anyone do anything for it.
Yeah, that's
and at the same time, you don't get an experience of seeing the pride that someone has of doing a good job.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a really important thing, to honour the work to people. And like the Sikhs have a really good sort of tradition. Like the Sikhs are pretty awesome in all the shit that they've put together to create their own way of looking at the world.
Sure.
Right? And one of the things they have is you're not allowed to not work, right? Because there's honour and dignity in work.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're out of work, you go to the temple and you cook. And you get fed for the day. But you feed the people who come in at arm's time to eat the free food.
That's good.
So it forces you to, you never, like, there's that English proverb, like the devil makes work for idle hands, and it's true.
Yeah.
You got nothing to do, you'll find some way to tear it up because there's nothing to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about yesterday. Some people come up and they go, I'm so bored. And you're like, how the fuck are you bored? I don't have enough time in the day. I'm not even going to work at the moment.
You can learn at a hypertrophic rate on the internet. I wish I had the internet.
Oh, the internet.
I want to be two
can't
again.
Be bored with that.
I want to be two again, so I can do my education by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Wouldn't you, though?
It
Wouldn't
is.
you?
Yeah.
If the internet was around,
I spent enough time in an Encyclopedia Britannica. It was one of the great gifts my parents gave us. Was to, pay that off over time, this Encyclopedia Britannica. When I was bored, I'd just sit in there and read about the Peloponnesian Wars.
How are you educating your kids then? What are you deciding to do about that?
Well, it's a big question, and a lot of it for me at the moment is time, because I'm in sort of transitions as well. Like I've given 10 years of public service to this country, and it's too slow for me.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. I don't believe, I place no limit on a human being's capacity to do a thing. None, right? However, that person needs to be scaffolded with care and compassion in order to grow and extend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that requires the people who are asking this of them, and for them, firstly, they've got to give it freely, right? Yeah. They've got to want to do the thing.
Yeah.
And if they do want to do the thing, then the people who are organising the thing have an obligation and responsibility to make that as safe as possible, still with risk to grow, right? And if we work like that, you create awesome results. Like when I was at the tax office, I was given grads, right?
Yeah.
Wet behind the ears, never done a thing.
Yeah.
Couple of grads who are like me, a few years more experienced, 2 of them. Dropped into major fraud investigations, right? Tax evasion investigations. Figure this out. Here's a bunch of documents. How did we do it? I let them go.
Yeah.
Right? I said, this is the story. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is what we're going to get. We've been given this because it's the hardest thing that they've got, right? Are we going to break it? Yes. Is it going to hurt us? Yes, because we're going to have to do the shit work to get to the good work. Yeah. But you don't get to do the shit work by yourself, because if I'm not willing to do it, then you don't have to. Yeah. So I sat there and catalogued documents just as they catalogued documents. We got through our documents first and then say, well, what can you see? So we used to have a meeting every Friday afternoon, and I'd book out a room, get a whiteboard, and we would just map everything. And because I was repeating it, it would just stay in my head. So I could be presenting to executives and I'd just draw a timeline. I'd tell them where all the events were, when the transactions happened, how much, where the shares went, how they went, where they ended up, why that's a taxable
And they're like, shit.
This is shit.
And I just keep going because we've done so many repetitions of it. But it would also mean that you who've been slaving away, you two have been slaving away on something, you've seen something but you don't know what it is. The guys who've been slaving away on something else go, fuck, I've got something like that. And we put the two bits together. It was like doing this massive jigsaw puzzle with people. But at no point in time did I tell those people that they couldn't do it. Yeah. But the way that I approached it was, look, this is what I'm asking you to do. If you don't understand it, you don't move. Don't move till what I'm saying to you makes sense. Yeah. And I want you to think about any issue that you have. Try and work it out. If you can't work it out, that's fine, right? Yeah. I'm all yours. But don't stop me after you've done 5 moves. As soon as you know you can't work it out, let's work it out.
Definitely,
And we smash stuff. And being government, we smash stuff, so they take your resources away and give it to something.
They think that you don't need that anymore.
No, because that's right. Because you've done the thing, right? Yeah. You've done the thing, but that guy over there is useless. Can't get this done. He can have 6 more people.
Oh crap! So it just gets harder and harder for you.
It gets harder and harder for you.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
So is that that's a generic concept
that's
of
just
what
fucking happens.
If you do a good job,
you talk to people around government about it and go, yeah, they've all the good operators have the same story.
I just take
you do a good job,
and
you'll lose your resources. You save money, you'll lose your resources.
Well, I mean, in a way,
because the system's not set up to account for you doing well.
Yeah, I know.
Because you're saving money.
Shouldn't they go?
Because you're saving money. I just saved you $1 million. Yeah. What are we going to do with this $1 million? We've got to spend it before we get our next budget allocation. So you need to create a flush fund where the money goes back, or you get to hold it.
So
they've all got perverse incentives.
So obviously, so the private sector is run completely differently to
private sector, who gives a shit? Like, I've worked in the private sector. The difference between the public sector and private sector, as far as I see it, is that they have less conditions on their employment. Right?
Sure.
As an employer, you don't, you've got all of the same legal conditions. But in the public sector, they have to take them seriously. So you have to look at your OH&S. You have to look at the number of hours you ask someone to work. You have to look at all of these other things.
You're protected a little bit more in terms of...
You are, and there's an administrative decision-making burden. I have to make reasonable decisions. I'm in the private sector, who's watching? I can make as unreasonable a decision as I want. Right? And people say, you should privatise. I go, fuck, that's a great idea. Yeah. Here is all the statute that you now have to comply with, that I comply with. Yeah. You don't get to play free and loose and fast. No. Do what we do and show me you're more efficient.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
So if you're weighed down by the same obligations that we are, if you can do it more efficiently, hands down, I pay you. Yeah. Here, have more. But reality is, most people can't do it, because once you're into these decision-making scenarios where your decisions can be questioned, legally questioned, right? Slows everything down.
Yeah, of course.
People take on a bit more sort of risk aversion.
Does that mean that you're for privatisation of stuff or not?
No, don't privatise anything. What are you privatising for? We own shit. That's the way it works. Keynesian economics is on its way back, right? So we have to borrow to build shit. How do we have these roads, these schools? We borrowed to build it, we paid it off. Let's put this to the world. If I was BHP Billiton and I'm going to develop Olympic Dam, am I going to save up the cash before I build an Olympic Dam and pay cash?
No.
Bullshit. No. I'm going to leverage the fuck out of that. So I'm going to leverage it 95%. I'm going to borrow the money, and then I'm going to make enough money to pay back my interest and my capital. Yeah. Ask any business person to start up their business 100% cash. You pay for everything. Yeah. Right? Don't borrow a cent.
No.
All right. Now we're applying business concepts to government. Why doesn't government borrow money?
Yeah, exactly.
Borrow it cheaper than anyone else.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, what do you mean, why don't they?
Yeah, because they don't.
They don't want to carry debt.
They don't.
So there are countries around the world that carry too much debt.
But they
Because
borrow
they
their
don't
money
collect
from
tax.
Like the
private
US.
banks
Yeah,
and
like
pay
the
interest.
US and Europe. Like in Europe, they borrowed more than they can repay, right?
No.
And you can't just repay it. You've got to be able to repay your interest and your capital. It has to be like anyone's house.
Yeah.
You know, you're paying, but we've got, our time horizons aren't, we're not looking at 12 months. We're not fucking accountants. If you're government, you got to think like the Chinese because they're engineers, right? Most of the party are engineers. They're trained engineers, so they think in big systems, right? If you're working with them, their time horizon, their basic unit will be 5 years.
Yeah.
Their midterm unit will be 25, 50, or 100.
Yeah.
Right? Their long-term unit will be 200 years. So you've got people who are thinking about the next 200 years of civilization in which people will have their needs taken care of.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
That's great. That's great. But we don't think like that. We
Do you
think
want a
elections are, yeah, a glass of water. Actually, I have another beer.
Yeah.
And then I've got to start drinking water.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted another.
Nah, that's all right.
Mate, yeah, right. So, look at...
Because we confuse a lot of this shit, right?
Definitely.
We confuse a lot of this shit. We're back to the point where the IMF now have put their hands up and said, we probably just fucked Europe by telling them to go into austerity when we were expecting for every dollar that you took out of the economy, only it was going to have an extra 50% negative effect.
Yeah. Now
Now they've worked out that it's got like an extra 150% negative
Yeah.
effect. So if you take people out of the public system and you're not paying them, where do they go? They got no employment. How do they pay for their shit?
Exactly.
So you've got a whole lot of people now who are on the welfare system.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you could have paid them to be employed where they would spend the
That's
money.
what I'm fucking talking about. Like,
I don't understand that.
I don't either. Like,
It's
I mean,
one thing when
after-
your systems are fat though, and they're too fat. and
Yeah.
They should be lean, right?
Yeah.
Because a perspective that I don't know. I reckon a lot of people who collect tax, who work in tax, have a different perspective to other people in government. I have to collect that.
Yeah,
I've got to go and ask a person to give me their money
sure.
according to the law. I take that very seriously because I'm asking someone to give me their money to contribute to this commonwealth.
Yeah.
Right? When someone spends it, they didn't collect it.
No.
They didn't go through the shit of collecting it.
No.
They didn't have to deal with some poor bastard whose business is failing. He really doesn't want to pay tax.
That's right.
He needs a payment plan, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to break the law, but he has to break the law in order
Yeah.
to keep his business
Yeah,
afloat.
yeah.
And, you know, the ATO and that have sophisticated far enough to think to themselves, I don't want to kill the goose.
Yeah.
I can clean you out now, your business shuts down, you won't pay tax
And
next
then
year.
that's it, yeah.
Instead, I'll put you on a payment plan, you pay this year, you pay next year, we'll get through this,
Yeah.
right? So, because I collect the tax, I'm really, really particular about when we spend it.
Yeah.
So you treat every single one of those dollars with a bit of respect. You don't
Definitely.
just piss it against a wall.
Yeah.
You know, you don't come up with some scheme sitting around for fucking 6 months. You haven't talked to your citizen about what they want. I haven't asked you what you need.
Maybe not 75% of it on the military. That might.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
Australia, but
Yeah, well, that's right.
That's a
That-
big
that
one.
doesn't seem to be what
I've got
people
firm
want.
views on that too. Like, I got a lot of firm views. You probably worked out.
No, yeah. Look. It's so.
What do we need an offensive military for?
Offensive military for? I don't know.
What do we need an offensive military for?
That's why in the US it's like Secretary of Defense, defense budget. And it's like there's no defense going on here, motherfucker. This is fucking offense.
Well,
like,
one of those interesting things that the Institute of Post-Colonial Studies was doing was saying, let's forget about trying to create security, right?
Yeah.
Let's work out how we live with insecurity.
Yeah, nice. I like
Save a shitload of money,
that.
plus you make better relationships with your neighbours.
Yeah, definitely.
So you don't kill each other because you care about their humanity.
See, I always just assume that, there's something that we don't know, that the government know. The reason they're going and doing all these things in the military is because if they don't, we're going to get invaded by someone,
How do you invade Australia?
I don't know, how...
You know the way you do
I
it.
know that, I'm just sort of giving them that little,
But
surely you're doing this for
Why?
a
We
reason.
built Collins class
can't-
submarines in Adelaide to maintain employment in there. And I agree with trying to keep our manufacturing, solid, but make things for the future, not for the past.
Not
Other
really.
people make a submarine. Make a fucking submarine. Don't make it so loud that it vibrates under the water, and anyone with the most basic military is going to be able
really?
to
Is that what
fucking drop
happened?
mines and blow the shit out
Are
of
you
you.
serious?
Really, man, common class submarines are shit. They're shit. What do we need them for? They reckon that we're going to stop some invading army with submarines. How?
The sea monsters.
Yeah.
It's the same problem we had in World War II. You know, the North was defended by like a handful of guys with 7 bullets each.
Yeah. What?
7 bullets each. That's it.